Hard on the shores of the mighty Mississippi. Game 2 of the National League Division Series. It's the Cardinals and the Braves. The Cardinals leading 1-0. And we're at Busch Stadium. It's overcast. It's wet. It rained all last night and through the morning. They just took the tarp off the field, and we are ready to play ball. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller, and welcome to our coverage of this Division Series game. A must-win for the Atlanta Braves, although they are heading home. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they got a lot of positive responses to people who were missing in the lineup and the guys that replaced them. For instance, Mark McGwire, not here. Will Clark, however, is, and Clark continued to produce. He drove in a run at his very first at-bat. Mike Matheny, their outstanding catcher, out. Carlos Hernandez, though, tested twice throughout 2 would-be base stealers. And their much-maligned bullpen, they had to pitch 6 1/3 innings out of the bullpen yesterday. Only 1 unearned run allowed. And then Dave Veers came on to wrap it all up in the 9th inning as the Cardinals went up 1-0. With me is my partner, Joe Morgan. Welcome to Missouri, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the Cardinals getting those big responses from people off the bench, and that is why they're ahead.
Well, John, most teams in the playoffs are so evenly matched that the difference can be one player stepping up, playing better than he did during the regular season. I think yesterday the Cardinals had a couple of situations that were great for them, and the most important was the bullpen. Their bullpen showed yesterday that they can handle this pressure of playoff baseball, and that's going to be key down the stretch.
All right, now they've got their ace today. They're very confident. Darryl Kyle, he was a 20-game winner during the regular season. But the Braves, despite being down, are supremely confident because they've got ace left-hander Tom Glavine on the mound, a 21-game winner, and Glavine has been there many, many times before.
Well, Glavine and Maddox and Smoltz, these guys have pitched more big games the last 5 or 6 years than any other pitcher, and this is just another big game for Glavine. He is the guy that they'd rather have out there than anyone else at this particular point. He kind of reminds me of Whitey Ford. He's the guy that they can always fall back on.
All right, so the Braves in a must-win situation. The Cardinals may well feel the same because they're headed to Atlanta. It will be Darryl Kyle on the mound. We've got a matchup of 20-game winners for the first time in 31 years in the playoffs in the National League. Glavine for Atlanta.
ESPN's presentation of the Division Series is brought to you by the St. Paul Companies. Property and liability insurance for business. Without question, the St. Paul. And by Claritin brand of Loratadine tablets, official sponsor of Major League Baseball.
Another sellout crowd here in St. Louis, as you would expect. Game 2, the Cardinals and the Braves. And the Cardinals with a 1-0 lead. The field is really all wet. Could be slippery in the outfield, especially. They had a huge amount of rain here. There's Bobby Cox, 15th year as Braves manager, and he has managed in so many postseason games. Here's his batting order that he turned in. The Pepsi starting lineup for Atlanta: Rafael Fortal, the shortstop; Andrew Jones in center; Chipper Jones at third base; Andres Galarraga batting cleanup; Brian Jordan, the former Cardinal, in right field; Javier Lopez, the catcher, in the lineup. He has never hit well against Kyle. Reggie Sanders in left field, Keith Lockhart at second, Tom Glavine, the pitcher, batting ninth. And Kyle on the mound for St. Louis, 20-9 in the regular season. He was the Cardinal stopper. He was the guy they went to, and he finished up the year with a 6-game winning streak. He was second in the league in wins, only behind Tom Glavine. Alvaro Martin is here with us. Alvaro.
Well, John, when Darryl Kyle was a struggling young right-hander with the Houston organization in 1990, he went 5-10 with a 6+ ERA. His pitching coach, Brent Strom, told him, develop a breaking ball pitch, or else you won't survive in the major leagues. Well, he went home to California and started throwing against the brick wall and developed a very, very effective upper hand curve that really has become his signature pitch. Now, when Mike Matheny was the catcher, he could throw what he calls the bury pitch, a ball that bounced in front of the plate. With Carlos Hernandez in the backstop, things might be a little bit different. Hernandez only caught him 5 innings on August 27th. We'll see what happens today.
All right, Alvaro. There's Carlos Hernandez. Rafael Fortal ready to stand in.
Well, John, the one thing that I noticed this year about Darryl Kyle, because he has such a great curveball, a lot of hitters were looking for it, and he was using his fastball very well throughout the season. And he was spotting it, and he has a good fastball, but he has a great curveball.
We are underway now. 62 degrees, the official game time temperature. That is a cold strike with a fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike to Fortal. Kyle is 31 years of age. He's only been in postseason play one other time, 1997 with the Houston Astros. There's the big dropping curveball. Called the ball too high, and the count 2-1 now. Andrew Jones on deck. He pitched against Atlanta game 1 of the 97 division series. Pitched very well and lost to Greg Maddux 2-1. It's a called strike on the outside. He joined a long list of guys, Joe, who pitched well and lost against guys like Maddux and Glavine.
These guys, Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz have pitched more big games than any other pitcher in the last 10 years because they're always in the playoffs.
3-2 now to Furcal. Furcal, 20 years old. He just turned 20 in August. And his lack of experience may have shown right up in the first inning of the first game. He gets a walk here. And he'll take first base.
And let's take a look at the defense behind Darryl Kyle. And you see him pointing at the second baseman. That's Fernando Vena. And he is a very good defensive second baseman, very quick around the bag. And it's a pretty good infield all the way around. And Jim Edmonds, of course, Gold Glove winner. And Will Clark won a Gold Glove when he was in the National League. Fernando Vena.
So the batter will be Andrew Jones. But Rafael Furcal attempted a steal in the first inning of the first game on a 2-0 count to Chipper Jones. Chipper in a fastball count got a fastball. And Carlos Hernandez with a pitch that was prime for him to come up throwing, threw out Rafael Furcal. Bobby Cox took the blame afterwards, saying, you know, I should have taken the steal sign off once it got to 2-0. Now 3-0.
And the two, power hitters, guys like Chipper Jones, Galarraga, when they get a 2-0 count, they want to concentrate on nothing but the pitch. Get the fastball and do something with it. And when the runner breaks it, it hurts their concentration a lot. Just a bad time to steal with a slugger at the plate.
2 balls, no strikes to Andrew Jones. 36 home runs in the regular season. Right off the mask of Terry Kraft, who's the home plate umpire here today.
One of the things so far in this ball game that Darryl Kyle is doing is everything is up. The fastball is up. Even when he throws it out of the strike zone, it's up. That ball there was up a little bit. You do not want to pitch up in the strike zone to this Atlanta Braves lineup because most of them are good high fastball hitters.
He had not walked a man leading off an inning for his last 97 innings. But now here in the postseason, he has walked for Kyle. Now that pitch was pretty close. 3-1 the count. And right now, Terry Kraft is showing a rather small looking strike zone.
Well, the point is he got the ball down, which is what he has to do. Just get it down. And that view, it looks like it went across the knees, but we've had a lot of umpires on display in these playoff games lately. They've been the story and not.
3-1 pitch. Well, Andrew Jones took a shot at going deep with one, ran in on the inside, and he missed it.
Well, he had swung at 2 bad pitches. The 2-0 pitch was up and out of the strike zone, and that one was in off the plate.
3-2 the count. Now, is this a running count for Furcal?
There's no doubt that Furcal will be taking off here.
So if he's a little concerned about it, you're saying, don't worry about it now.
No,
go ahead.
I'm sure that Bobby Cox has put the run sign on here.
There he goes. One hop to third. Polanco. A low throw to first, but Will Clark comes up with it. Furcal safely into second. Andrew Jones retired.
Well, that's why you do not like to take the count to 3-2. You like to make things happen on 2-2. If he would not have been running, that's a double play. So if you can make something happen on 2-2, go ahead and do it, because once you put the runner in motion, you take away just about all chances of making a double play on the ground ball. And there goes Furcal. And see, this is a double play if he's not running. But a poor throw across and a nice scoop by Will Clark.
Now Chipper Jones, 36 home runs in the regular season. He was 1 for 4 with a walk in game 1 on Tuesday. That's too high, ball 1. You saw Edgar Renteria, the shortstop, bluffing in behind Furcal at second base, trying to keep him close. On the other hand, is that distracting to Chipper Jones, the hitter?
I believe it is, because anytime the runner breaks out of the pitcher's motion, you're looking right over the right shoulder, and that's where he breaks from.
That's a base hit to left field. He's going to be waved home by Ned Yost. Langford throws. It is not in time. Pretty strong throw, just enough offline that the very fast Furcal was able to elude the tag. 1-0 Atlanta.
And that was interesting. Edgar Renteria was trying to hold Furcal close to the bag, and Chipper Jones just shoots it through the hole on that side. But only because he has such speed, so he just shoots it through the hole. If we could see there, you'd see Renteria was out of position. This is a strong throw by Ray Langford, but the speed of Furcal is just what gets him in there. Now watch how far over. See, Renteria is coming from pushing Furcal back to the bag. He was trying to keep him close because Chipper Jones pulls the ball most of the time. He was trying to keep him close, and Chipper Jones took advantage of that.
So Chipper, the RBI, the Braves jump ahead. A leadoff walk has turned into a run, as will so often happen. Here now, Andres Galarraga, fastball inside. 1 ball and no strikes. Kyle defeated Atlanta during the regular season, but has never had much success against them lifetime. He's 6-11 in his career against the Braves. Well,
he's not starting off good well either, because the first 4 hitters, he has not thrown a strike on the first pitch to any of the 4 hitters, and that's a tough way to pitch to this lineup.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Tony La Russa, his record here.
This is Tony's 3rd big league assignment. Started with the White Sox. Took them to the postseason in 1983. Went to the Oakland Athletics and helped build that ball club to a true power in the game. They were a mini dynasty there for several years. 3 straight World Series at one point. Here in St. Louis, into the postseason for the 2nd time.
The funny thing, that Athletic team was very similar to the Braves. They get to the World Series but didn't win. They only won one World Championship while he was there, but they would get there, which is important, and that's been a big sore spot with John Sherholtz of the Braves. He says that everyone wants to malign them because they've only won 1 World Championship, and he's basically saying that, what about all the other things that we've done? You know, they've won all the other divisional championships and league championships.
That is a fair ball past Will Clark and down the line. Hits the railing. Chipper Jones will be held at 3rd as Galarraga goes into 2nd. Cardinal right fielder Eric Davis had to readjust after that one at the railing. Very similar to that ball hit yesterday by Barry Bonds in San Francisco that caused Derek Bell to put the brakes on and then actually sprain his ankle.
Well, I actually thought that Chipper Jones was going to be able to score. Galarraga takes this pitch and lines it inside the bag. And look at all the room over there. Chipper was off with the swing. Ball bounces out. Eric Davis plays it well, but I still thought Chipper Jones had a chance to score, but they hold him at 3rd.
Now you got Brian Jordan coming up. Now Jordan was just unbelievable during the division series against Houston last year. Remember, Atlanta fell behind 1-0 at home and had the 21-game winner Lima in game 2. Then they had to go to Houston and face the 22-game winner Hampton. So they were really in trouble last year. But Brian Jordan, who had finished the year in a terrible slump, had all kinds of physical problems. He started hitting home runs and getting clutch hits and became the best player in that series. In game 3, the pivotal game of that series last year, he drove in 5 runs in a 5-3 Atlanta win. And he had 3 hits yesterday after finishing up this season with physical problems and in a slump. High and tight from Kyle. 1 ball, 1 strike. A light rain is beginning to fall in St. Louis. The middle infielders are back normal depth. The Cardinals are pulled in at the corners. Polanco at 3rd and Clark at 1st. There you see how they're playing it.
Well, Will and Polanco, they can come to the plate on a ground ball.
That is a ground ball to 2nd. And Vigna really wanted to throw home, but decided he did not have the clear shot. So scoring is Chipper Jones. Brian Jordan gets another RBI. He's got 3 RBIs already in this series. Galarraga held on at second base. 2-0 Atlanta.
When you play this deep, no matter how hard the ball is hit, it's just a long throw, and you're better off going to first base. It appears right there that he probably had a shot, but I don't think so. He made the right play. When you're that deep, it's just such a long throw to get the guy that 90% of the time you're not going to get him. And if he goes to the plate and he doesn't get him, you're opening the gates for a big inning.
You know, this had been several years ago when they had the artificial turf here.
Right.
That could have been an opportunity.
Could have gotten to him a little quicker.
Big curveball, but I don't know, maybe that curveball is fooling the umpire.
Well, I think one of the things it's doing is not breaking down sharply as this curveball normally does. And I think once he gets control of it, you know, he has to get a feel for it. You know, you get a different feel from the mound in the bullpen than you do on the mound in the middle of the diamond. So once he gets accustomed to the feel out there, I think we'll see that curveball break a little sharper.
Javier Lopez got one that kind of hung up there. He had a mighty rip at it, but fouled it back. He had 24 homers, 89 RBIs during the season.
We haven't seen the good Darryl Kyle curveball. That right there, he buckled a little bit, but he still had time to get after it.
2 down, Galarraga in second.
There it is. That's the one that he wants to throw. It wasn't a strike, but the break, the sharp contrast to the one that was hanging. That's the way he wants to throw the curveball.
2-1 the count to Lopez. Reggie Sanders on deck. Fernando Vigna had broken in behind Galarraga at second, was standing at second. Kyle threw that last pitch. Another curve, line to the left fielder, right to Langford, and the inning is over. So a rough start for Darryl Kyle. The Cardinals are down by 2. Tom Glavine ready to take the hill for Atlanta. It's the Braves 2, the Cardinals coming to bat. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and the rain is falling. It fell through the night and through the morning. No batting practice on the field. Cardinals getting ready to come up. Here's the Pepsi starting lineup for St. Louis. Fernando Vigna, second base. Edgar Renteria, shortstop. Jim Edmonds, center field, a first game homer. Will Clark at first base. Eric Davis, the veteran, in the lineup. He hit lefties real well this year. Ray Langford, who's always hit Glavine well in left field. Carlos Hernandez, the veteran catcher. Placido Polanco, who had 3 hits in game 1, and Darryl Kyle is the pitcher batting 9th. And on the mound, perhaps on his way to the Hall of Fame, just as is his teammate Greg Maddux. Every year he makes a stronger case for heading to Cooperstown. Tom Glavine, his 5th 20-game season this year.
And John, a lot of people always bring up the point. They say, well, the umpire is very important when Tom Glavine is pitching. And I agree that the umpire's call toward the outside corner are important. But the most important thing is how far can he get the hitters to go off the plate, not how many strikes that are called out there. Will the hitters keep their patience and not go out there? He makes them swing at more bad pitches than the umpire hurts them. And that is, he uses a fastball tailing away, and he uses a changeup and a few curveballs. But most of the time he throws a fastball, and he's added a cut fastball to try to get inside on some of the right-handed hitters.
Fernando Vigna takes a strike.
The one thing about Glavine is I don't think he's any tougher on left-handed hitters than he is right-handed hitters. In fact, I think left-handed hitters have a better chance against him because he doesn't throw a lot of curveballs, and he doesn't like to, you know, he doesn't really disturb you as a left-handed pitcher because he comes pretty much over the top.
Vigna, still the ball, has never done that well against him. Fernando, whose job as a leadoff man is to get on base, and he did that well this year. He had a 380 on base average. But in his career against Glavine, he's got only a 214 on base average. So I've been doing a lot of studying.
Yeah,
Joe.
well, it's not about...
Right back to the middle. Just like I told you, Joe, he owns Glavine.
Well, he wanted to show you that everything that he's done so far doesn't really matter. But if you just watch Glavine, the way that he pitches to left-handed hitters, it really doesn't bother you. I mean, he doesn't, you know, herky-jerky left-handers bother left-handed hitters. Guys, you have trouble picking the ball up out of their motion. But with Glavine, everything is pretty much straight over the top, and you can find the baseball. And here's the defense. They have Rafael Furcal. He's the most important part here. He played second base on Tuesday. Now he's over at shortstop, and he can play both positions very well.
Walt Weiss out of the lineup. Lockhart in, and Edgar Renteria takes a called strike. Now I had some scouts tell me that the worst thing to do with Glavine is to have nothing but right-handed hitters against him.
Well, that's why I say it is difficult, because he gets in a zone. He likes to find a rhythm throwing the ball toward the outside corner. And if you put a left-handed hitter up there, or you mix some left-handers in, that changes his angle. He has to go it in a different direction.
One hop to third. Chipper Jones the second one, and Lockhart the first, and one hop to Galarraga, not in time. Renteria, who runs real well, is able to beat the relay.
Actually, what happened there is now watch where Lockhart stands. He stays right at the bag, right there. He's right there. That allows Vigna to get on him and to put some pressure on him. If he could have taken one step across the bag, he would get out of the way. If he could take one step over this way, he would get away from Vigna. But he stays right there, and that allows Vigna to put all the pressure on him. And it's very difficult to throw when you're in the air like that. But he's not a normal second baseman. Kilvio Veras is their second baseman. He's out. So what he needs to do is just make one step across the bag, and I think he would have cleared himself for the runner.
Jim Edmonds, the hitter. Now, there have been a few guys who get away with that. Like Cal Ripken, when he was a shortstop, he was so huge, he'd stay in there and make it so. Jeff Kent with the Giants, a second baseman. He's big and strong. He'll stay in there, but I mean, he's a little small guy.
Yeah, but even standing in there being big is tough, because they can knock you off balance once they make contact with you. Bill Mazeroski was the best I ever saw at making a double play. And he had like tree stumps for legs, and he just, boom, you couldn't knock him over. You couldn't do anything with him. So you're right, the bigger you are, the better chance you have if you want to stand there. I don't advise standing there, John. Just move out of the way.
That was your style.
Yeah, just get out of the way. Did not like contact.
Get out of the way, have a long career.
Right. If you want to just avoid the contact. If you have to have the contact, take it, but don't stand there and make it easy for them.
And if you want to get Jim Edmonds out, don't go to 3-0. Jim Edmonds, 42 home runs during the season. Already one home run here in the postseason. Renteria at first, 3-0 the count. And a 4-pitch walk.
Again, you know, it's a left-handed hitter that he has faced. And the one thing I'll say here, we talked about him not being any tougher on left-handers and right-handers. He hit 240. Left-handers hit 242 against him. Right-handers hit 245.
Well, Will Clark's first game at home was against the Braves and against Tom Glavine. And when he went to the plate for his first at bat, they gave him a standing ovation here, welcoming him to the Cardinals. And then Clark stepped in against Glavine and hit the first pitch for a home run. An incredible moment. Off the outside. Glavine beat the Cardinals twice in 2 starts this year, but they scored quite a few runs against him in both of those games. The Braves just happened to score a ton of runs. Will Clark drove in a run in his first at bat yesterday, or rather Tuesday, in game 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Renteria at second, Edmonds at first, 1 out.
And here's a little change up away, and you see Will Clark way out in front. See, Glavine basically pitches left-handers like he does right-handers. That change-ups away, fastballs away. Not a lot of curveballs.
At the call on the outside.
Fastball away, good pitch. But one of the reasons Will Clark will not have a lot of problems with Glavine, he may not get a lot of base hits, but he'll have some good swings, is because he will take that pitch, meaning the pitch away, and drive it to left field.
1 ball, 2 strikes, and they are really swung around, Joe, toward left field against Will Clark.
Yeah, the Reggie Sanders is like 40 feet off the line.
This one off the outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And you see here's center field, and you see Andrew Jones, he's over here. Reggie Sanders way over here, almost on the line.
2 the count to Clark. Ventura and Edmonds the runners. And that is ball 3. 3-2 to Will Clark. Eric Davis, a right-handed hitter, is on deck.
And you can see how close to the line Reggie Sanders is. I mean, look at all the room here, which means there's a ton of room over here in right center.
All right, now LaRusso's got a decision. Does he run? The 2 runners.
Well, Will Clark makes a lot of contact. I don't think he should because he's a left-handed hitter, and that opens up, that makes it an easy throw to third base for the catcher.
They are running. Clark high in the air. Foul along the left field line and back out of play. The shortstop for Powell. The left fielder Sanders and the third baseman Chipper Jones all started over. 3-2 the count.
Well, you can see he has a lot of confidence in Will Clark. As I said, he does make a lot of contact, but the risk versus the reward is a little tough for me because if he strikes out, they're going to throw him out because the catcher has a clear shot at third base. It's tough to steal third base with a left-handed hitter at the plate.
Will Clark hit .345 as a Cardinal in 51 games and had 42 RBIs. Ventura and Edmonds were running on the last pitch. There they go. High in the air, deep into right center field. Jordan all the way back to the wall. It is gone. Will Clark has done it again. They're still on their feet, and Clark takes a bow just as Glavine throws the pitch. Outside to Eric Davis. Eric Davis finally just figured, man, I'm going to have to get in there at some point. And just as he did, Clark came up to the top step of the dugout and doffed his cap. Davis takes low. 2-0 the count. Well, a stunning first inning reversal for the Atlanta Braves with their ace left-hander on the mound. Changeup. 2-1.
And John, just think the left-handed hitters have given him trouble here in this inning. The one thing to remember, and I'm speaking from experience as a left-handed hitter, if you do not have to worry about a curveball from a left pitcher, and you know you're going to get fastballs either in or out, that's all you have to deal with, then the left-hander doesn't really bother you.
Lockhart and the still very fleet-footed Eric Davis just retired at first. 2 down.
As I said, he's going to get some good swings at Glavine because he comes after you with a fastball. And that's will the thrill. He's always had one of the sweetest swings in baseball. It's not quite as quick, but it's still very pretty to watch. I really believe that you have to throw left-handed hitters some curveballs. Even if you do not throw strikes with it, you have to give them something else to look at.
Well, every day has become turn back the clock day since Will Clark got to St. Louis. Will Clark, who is 36 years old, has become 25 again since getting to St. Louis. And of course, when he was 25 in the postseason, the Giants against the Cubs, and Will Clark set the world on fire, leading the Giants to a win over the Cubs in the League Championship Series. He hit .650, setting all kinds of League Championship Series records in the process. When he went to the American League with Texas, he had no success at all in postseason play. He was 3 for 27 in the postseason with Texas, 2 different postseasons against the Yankees.
National League player.
It must be.
He is. No, I mean, he really is. Because in the National League, they come after you more, they challenge you more, the pitchers are more aggressive, and you become more aggressive as a hitter. That's what Mark McGwire said when he came over here from the Oakland A's. He said, this league, you have to be aggressive because they're aggressive.
Slider down and away, 3-2 now to Ray Langford. Will Clark had 256 at-bats in the American League this year with Baltimore. 9 homers, 28 batted in. In 171 at-bats with the Cardinals, 12 homers, 42 batted in. Strike 3 call. Langford unhappy about it. But nonetheless, a stunning inning for the Atlanta Braves, taking their ace, Tom Glavine, to a 2-0 lead, and suddenly they are trailing 3-2. Man, what a first inning again. This time the Braves got 2 with Glavine on the mound, but the Cardinals got 3. And in 2 innings, 2 first innings against Maddox and Glavine, 2 of the best in the game, the Cardinals have scored 9 runs in these first 2 games. Darryl Kyle had a real ragged first inning, sort of taken off the hook. He gets a fresh start with a lead. He delivers ball 1 to Reggie Sanders. Keith Lockhart on deck. Now Tony La Russa hollering at Terry Kraft on the Cardinal dugout, and Kraft hollers right back. La Russa for a moment came up on the step of the dugout there. Get into it with Kraft.
Well, we all know that is a no-no. You cannot question balls and strikes if you're the manager.
No strikes.
Well, I'm sure he wasn't questioning balls and strikes, just the height of the pitch.
Now, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between that pitch and the one that just got called a ball. So,
well, I'm not that I'm a
slow bouncer, third base side, and Polanco lets it go foul. Sanders is a very fast runner, so it was not a bad idea.
John, not that I'm a defender of the umpires, but I think a lot of times in the playoffs, the intensity level, because it's so high, everyone expects them not to make any mistakes at all. And they're going to make some mistakes. If you have to watch 250 pitches a game, you're going to miss a couple of pitches. I mean, it's that simple. Just like a pitcher. If he throws 125 pitches, he's going to make some mistakes out there. He's going to hang some breaking balls. Now, just to go back, Tom Glavine in the first inning, there was not one questionable call. No one questioned any of the calls. And so, and they usually question and say that the umpires give Glavine too much of the outside corner and so forth and so on. Well, they didn't do it he didn't do it in the first inning. Glavine ended up walking a couple of batters, so getting behind one and walking one. So I have to say that I think sometimes we make a little bit too much of the umpires in the postseason.
Slider, and it's off the outside.
And I really believe it's because the intensity level is turned up and everyone wants every pitch because every pitch is so much more important.
Well, you can defend the umpires.
No, but that's not my job. That's just the point.
He swung at it. Strike 3. He tried to check, couldn't do it.
Because I've done the same thing. I mean, I've questioned umpires, especially in the playoffs and the World Series. It's just the things that you do. I mean, you want to win so badly. We see that great curveball we're talking about. This is the one that he needs. Look at the rotation there. Almost straight down.
That is the hammer.
Yeah, that's the hammer. The yellow hammer.
That was hammer time.
Yeah.
Strike 1 to Lockhart. 0-1 the count. Lockhart, the 8th place hitter. Tom Glavine out on deck. 3-2. St. Louis leading. We're in the second. And he changed up. 0-2 the count. But the umpires, I mean, we're the first to say, oh, that was a bad call if we think so.
Yeah,
we're not
defending them.
Unduly defending, but they are sort of the backbone of the game. I mean, the whole integrity of the game revolves around these guys being at the top level and being impartial and making every effort to get it right.
But John, they're human beings, and if one side yells at them all day, it seems to have an effect. I mean, they're just human.
All of them?
Yeah, I like
all of them.
Yeah, I like the fact, what I'm really saying is let the umpires do their job, play the game. Let's play. Because you start yelling at him on knee-high pitches, and just like you said, maybe it looks like the exact same pitch. He calls it a strike next time. Now you feel like he's making up. So, I think that we just need to play the game. I really do. And the umpires have not been the biggest difference in most of these ball games.
And we just need to broadcast the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. And it's strike 3 call in the outside corner. Lockhart caught looking. And Kyle's control has improved significantly since La Russa hollered at Terry Craft.
Well, look at the catcher's glove. He down and reaches a little bit, but let's face it, there are 2 strikes on you as a hitter. That ball appears, if our camera's directly behind the plate, that it's outside. But see, now you're going to get Bobby Cox yelling and so forth and so on. But it is, I mean, no matter who you are, it's very difficult to do your job if you pull one way and then the other.
That's the one that Hampton wanted on Barry Bonds yesterday.
Yeah.
0-1 the count. And that's a foul. And you know, that's another subject, but and you had touched on it yesterday. Well, maybe it was a strike, maybe it wasn't. You ask a Mets fan, you ask a Giants fan, they have different opinions.
Right.
But the fact was that was not a 3-run homer.
No.
And
no.
Hampton, those calls, they go your way, they go against you over and over again.
Right.
And to say, well, that call cost the game, well, that's not right.
That's not true. That's the point. I guess that's what I was trying to say, is that the umpires very rarely win or lose the ball game for you. They may make it more difficult to win sometimes, but you have to play the game. And look, we're in the playoffs. Every pitch means more. So every manager wants every pitch. Every pitcher wants every pitch.
Oh, man. That is the big curveball, the great Kyle curveball, and he has held that 1-run lead, striking out the side. 3-2 Cardinals. Those are the high up seats in center field in front of the scoreboard here. 3-2 the Cardinals leading the Braves. And coming up, the Mets and Giants, game 2 from Pacific Bell Park. That'll be on the Fox network, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, followed by Sports Center. And tune in to Sports Center for all the scores, highlights, and analysis from today's action. Then tomorrow, another great day of coverage starting at 3:30 on ESPN2 with baseball tonight at 4 Eastern on ESPN. Game 3, the White Sox and Mariners from Safeco Field. The White Sox trying to stay alive. And then tomorrow, game 3 of the Athletics and the Yankees from Yankee Stadium in New York. You know, it's intimidating just to hear Bob Shepard go on that sound system. Welcome to Yankee Stadium. You know, it's the big ballpark in the Bronx, as Reggie used to say.
Yeah, well, it is. And John, I have a statistic for all those people who love statistics. In the last 10 divisional playoffs, the team that has won the first game has won 9 out of 10
in the National League.
In the National League. And guess what? The one time that it didn't happen was the Atlanta Braves. They came back to win. So if you're a Braves fan, you say, well, we can do it again. But if you're a Cardinal fan, you say 9 out of 10 times the team that won the first game won the divisional championship.
I tell you what, at this time last year, the Braves were really worried. That one is blasted by Hernandez down the line. It is gone. Home run.
Well, John, they better be worried this year because these Cardinals are coming after them.
Well, Carlos Hernandez replacing the injured Mike Matheny, and he has had a history of success against Tom Glavine. He had a .385 lifetime average in 26 at-bats against Glavine coming into the game. Here is Polanco. Up the middle, but there, Andrew Jones for the catch, 1 away.
Well, they're getting good swings at Glavine. I mean, he's made some good first pitches, but he hangs this one. He got a good fastball on the outside corner to Hernandez, and then this one is up and over the middle of the plate, and man, he put a charge into it. And there's the Cardinals bench. They said, now we have a 2-run lead.
I mean, that was a home run, hitter's home run. Darryl Kyle bluffing the bunt, taking a strike. Hernandez had 3 home runs this year in 242 at-bats. 4 4-2 St. Louis. I used to say, Joe, if you're going to get to Glavine, you needed to get to him early, and we've seen that many times in the past. Not so much this year.
Right.
He only allowed 14 first-inning runs in 35 starts. But the Cardinals are definitely getting to him early today. And the Braves desperately need Glavine to find himself here.
Where are you going, John? Oh, man. I'm glad your viewers did not see you. He almost ran out of the booth that way. The ball hit right here.
Big deal. I'm just here to report the game, Joe. We're not here to become the story.
You can't report it from 20 rows back.
ESPN caster killed the second inning foul. A Busch Stadium first. I'm a journalist.
I'm sorry, right. You're right.
Story.
Okay, just cover.
Who's up?
Well, one of those left-handers that he's been having problems with.
Fernando Vina. 1 ball and no strikes. He bluffed the bunt. He singled and started that 3-run first inning rally. Now it is 4-2 St. Louis ahead in the second. That's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. And tomorrow night, the game 3 at Yankee Stadium, Oakland and the Yankees. That'll be on NBC with Skip Carey and Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
Big deal.
The skipper.
And at 11 o'clock tomorrow, tune in to ESPN. Again, Sports Center for all the scores, highlights, and analysis. All the stuff that Joe, might not have had time to get into during the telecast. We'll have it for you on Sports Center after the game. Carlos Hernandez, they tested him in game 1. He threw out both Braves would-be base stealers. A curveball, bounce foul. And Hernandez is doing all this. Rising to the occasion big time here in this postseason with the local hero, Mike Matheny, out of action. A freak injury. And Hernandez is going to have back surgery. He's got a disc problem when the season is all over with.
Well, remember now, he's a guy that he was a catcher for the Padres.
And his Lockhart, he throws out Vina. So another run. The Cardinals lead 4-2. Top of the order coming up for Atlanta. 3-run first inning homer. A bolt of lightning streaking through the sky. We asked Will Clark about the significance of playing in front of these great Cardinal fans.
I definitely think it makes you a better player. You want to stay on an even keel. You don't want to get too high and too low. But the concentration level can definitely be bumped up a notch. And, so far, that's the one thing that I've found in my 2 months here is that the concentration level has been at its utmost, which I need it to be. And also, I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, he's having a lot of fun, and so are the Cardinal fans.
Yeah.
The Orioles, only 28 RBIs. Rafael Furcal along the left field line, Langford, and there is one away. Furcal walked his first time and started a 2-run first inning rally for the Braves. Mark McGwire, of course, came from the Oakland Athletics. McGwire and Will Clark had sort of parallel careers going in the San Francisco Bay Area. McGwire came on with the Athletics a year after Clark came on with the Giants across the Bay.
I remember when Jim Edmonds came here, Mark McGwire told him that he was getting ready to experience something he'd never experienced before. The greatest fans in the world, and the fact that they were going to be filled every day. He said, this is, in McGwire's words, the best baseball town in baseball, and you're going to have fun. And Jim Edmonds has agreed with that.
Well, they never thought, outside of St. Louis, that McGwire would ever stay here.
Right.
The Cardinals really took a big gamble trading for him because they might have only had him for a couple of months. And instead, really these great fans won Big Mac over.
And he loved it here. I mean, he just loved it. It was interesting, Will Hart.
2-1 to Andrew Jones, and now 3-1. Chipper Jones on deck.
After Will Clark was here for a week, he told his wife, he said, when he walked down the street, 30 people recognized him. He said while he was in Baltimore, he walked down the street, no one said hello. So he said there's a big difference here compared to, being in Baltimore.
It's called strike 3-2 now. Right? Of course, maybe it was they recognized him, and he just wasn't hitting in Baltimore.
And they didn't want to say hello. Huh?
There goes Will Clark. He never drives in a run. 3-2 the count to Andrew.
I'm sure the Baltimore fans recognize Cal Ripken Jr. when he walks down the street. But I mean, it can make a difference. I don't know about walking down the street, but it makes a difference in the stadium with as many fans as they have here cheering for him.
Just a second. Fernando Mena throws on Andrew Jones. 2 down. Merv Rettenman, the hitting coach for Atlanta, is wearing a microphone, and we were able to eavesdrop with a conversation he was having with his players between innings.
You said 5 runs, right?
We'll get 5. Except this guy is throwing really good right now.
All right, so Merv was predicting they'd get 5, and talking with Glenn Hubbard. Hubbard looked like he was going to hold him to that there, Joe.
Yeah, except Merv prefaced it by saying, hey, this guy's throwing really good right now.
2 down, nobody on. Here is Chipper Jones. Well, indeed, 7 in a row retired. This should be 8 in a row retired by Kyle. Vigna throws out Chipper. So Kyle may have found his groove. It'll be Renteria, Edmonds, and Will Clark coming up. 4-2 St. Louis. For St. Louis, Edgar Renteria leads off, the second base hitter. Then Jim Edmonds and Will Clark against Tom Glavine. Base hit.
Well, that was the bad pitch, fastball away.
Well, Mike Easler, the hitting instructor for the Cardinals, is wearing a microphone, and when Will Clark hit that home run in the first, let's listen in.
Go, 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 go! Yeah! That's what I'm talking about. Yes, yes, yes! That's what I'm talking about.
That's what he's talking about.
That's what he's talking about. That's the hitman, Mike Easler.
See, read, and explode. Jim Edmonds, the hitter now. He walked his first time just in front of Will Clark's home run. Just a bit low, I guess, on the outside. Awfully close. 2-0 the count now. To Edmonds. Renteria over at first base. Cardinals had 3 in the first, another in the second. They've hit 2 home runs already against Tom Glavine. And now he's immediately back into trouble in this inning. 2-1 now to Edmonds. The big hitters are up. Edmonds, then Will Clark, Eric Davis, and Ray Langford. This Cardinal team with lots of power other than Mark McGwire. I mean, they lost an extraordinary amount of power when they lost McGwire, but they have a lot of power remaining. Whoa, 3-1.
It's not that he's making a lot of bad pitches, like throwing pitches in the middle of the plate or leaving the balls where they could get to them. The pitch to Renteria was a fastball on the outside corner. He went out and brought it back. And so far, this is bad. Edmonds is just laying off the pitches just off the outside part of the plate.
3-1 the count. Ripped down the right field line. That's going to go to the wall. Renteria to third, and he'll be held there by Oquendo. A double for Edmonds, and Will Clark is coming up with nobody out.
Well, that was not a good pitch. That was a fastball up. But he had to throw a strike, and he threw a strike, and Edmonds did something with it.
Now Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, goes out to talk to his veteran left-hander. The Braves bullpen is very busy. Mazzoni with Glavine and Lopez, runners at second and third, nobody out. And the Braves are in danger of really getting a significant deficit. The right-hander is Ashby. The left-hander is Mulholland in the Atlanta bullpen.
I think Bobby Cox has a decision to make here. Do you go ahead and pitch to Will Clark, or do you walk him and pitch to right-handed Eric Davis? Not because you're afraid of Will Clark, but because if you let him pull the ball to the right side, the run will score, and he'll also move another runner to third base with less than 2 outs.
There's Renteria at third, Edmonds at second. Now the middle infield stays back. That hit him. And now the bases are loaded for Eric Davis. Bobby Cox looked like he was saying he didn't try to get out of the way, did he?
Well, Will Clark's, well, the ball is off the plate, but not that far. And Will really doesn't try to get out of the way. You just see him. He doesn't move his arm. But this is what I was saying. I mean, if you do not want to hit anyone, you do not want to actually put another runner on base, but it's not the worst thing that could have happened.
Well, now you've got a guy who hit .391 against left-handed pitching coming up. Up and away. 1 ball and no strikes to Eric Davis.
But I guess hitting .391, that means he made a little over 4 outs every 6 outs every 10 at bats, and you just want 1 here. So percentages work well over the course of a season, but in any one at bat, you can throw out the percentages, and that's what he's doing here. He's figuring, well, maybe I can get a ground ball and get a double play, or I can pop him up. The danger with Will Clark hitting, you know he's going to put the ball in play. And if he pulls the ball, again, that's going to bring in 1 run and move a runner into score over to third with less than 2 outs, where he could score on a fly ball. So not all bad that he put him on first base.
Eric Davis with over 300 in the regular season. 3 men on, nobody out. Got the outside of that one. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, Glavine, I'm sure, wants 2 outs here from Davis. He'll take 1. And the Braves are playing their infield defense, where they would exchange a run to get a double play. I mean, they're in danger of just being buried right here. Didn't get that call, and he wanted it. 2-1 the count. There's Renteria, who singled, Edmonds, who doubled, and Clark hit by the pitch. Clark kind of looked like a Craig Biggio move up there.
Yeah.
2-1 the count. Left center field, Andrew Jones on the move near the warning track. Tagging is Renteria. He scores. Also tagging Edmonds. He moves over to third. And it is 5-2 St. Louis.
So it actually worked out the same way. If Will Clark would have pulled the ball, he would have scored a run and moved the runner over to third with less than 2. Eric Davis, long fly ball, accomplishes the same thing. He gets the run home and moves the runner up. You can see it's a pretty good pitch. Again, he's not leaving a lot of balls in the middle of the plate, but that was a good swing there by Davis. But Andrews still runs, and he times the ball moving away from it with runners tagging up right there.
In other words, why not get there, wait for it, and be set to make a throw after you catch it? Ray Langford, that's called a strike. You know who has commented about that is Willie Mays. Guys not setting themselves when they make a catch to make the throw afterward, giving base runners an extra few steps advantage. That one is ripped right center field. That one is off the top of the wall on the bounce. Edmonds has scored. Clark scores a 2-run double for Langford. 7-2 St. Louis. That's going to do it for Tom Glavine. Incredibly, in 2 games in St. Louis against 2 of the great pitchers of their time, the Cardinals have knocked both of them out early. Maddox on Tuesday and Glavine in the 3rd inning today. Seven to 2 Cardinals. Ray Langford, another lefty, doing damage. Worst postseason games. And both he and Greg Maddux get knocked out early. Maddux went 4 innings, 5 earned runs allowed, 7 total. And Glavine gives up 7 all earned in 2 1/3 innings and leaves with a runner at second and only 1 out here in the 3rd inning. Andy Ashby, a veteran starting pitcher, acquired from the Philadelphia Phillies in mid-July. Carlos Hernandez, who used to be a battery mate of Andy Ashby's in San Diego. In fact, 2 Octobers ago, they were battery mates against Atlanta in a very hard-fought league championship series, in which the Padres defeated Atlanta. It's Langford at second. Into the knees for a strikeout. He throws hard and the ball usually sinks.
He has a good sinking fastball. But John, I want to go back to Glavine for a second. We talked about at the beginning of the show that he wasn't any tougher on left-handers than he was right-handers. Left-handers in this game were 4 for 6 against him with a base on balls and a hit batsman. So he did not handle the left-handers, and that's really why he's out of the ballgame. The left-handers beat up on him. Will Clark with the 3-run homer, Ray Langford the 2-run double. The left-handers hurt him more than the right-handers did. I mean, that's something that you just normally do not expect against left-handed pitching.
Left-handed hitters had 5 RBIs out of the 7 runs scored. Carlos Hernandez with a 1-ball 2-strike count. And that one will get Langford to third. Looked like a slider that got away. So the wild pitch puts a runner at third with 1 out.
And if you're the Braves, you have to play the infield in because you just cannot afford to fall 6 runs behind this early in the ball game. But you do have time if you can get out of this inning. I mean, the game's not over. 7-2 is a pretty safe lead, you think, but there's a long ways to go in this ball game.
Andy Ashby working out of the bullpen. First time he's pitched in relief in 7 years. Slow chop foul on the third base side. Chipper Jones picks it up. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And you talked about Carlos Hernandez having back surgery when it's over. And you can watch he's giving in a little bit. Even though he hit a long home run, he's doing it just with his upper body. He's not twisting. He's not using his legs. He's just swinging with his upper body, which sometimes helps you as a hitter because it keeps you under control.
Struck him out. Good hard sinker. 2 down. And the 8th place hitter, Placido Polanco, comes up now.
Well, this is just what you called it, a good hard sinker down and away. And with 2 strikes, you can't hit that pitch. And with 2 strikes, it's hard to lay off.
Ashby has faced the Cardinals in postseason play before. They're going to walk Polanco intentionally. And again, they just can't afford to fall any further behind.
No.
They'll take no chances. Pitch to Kyle instead. So Polanco gets the walk. He lined out to center his first time. But in 1996, it was the Cardinals and the Padres in the division series. You and I came and did one of those ball games, the middle game of the 3. Cardinals swept that series, and Andy Ashby was the Padres' 3rd game starter. In the game the Cardinals won 7-5. He went 5 1/3 and gave up 4 runs and 7 hits in that game. And then the Cardinals, with a 3-game sweep over the Padres, went 3-1 ahead of Atlanta. And we're hoping to celebrate a win and go to the World Series right here in their own ballpark. But the Braves, with Tom Glavine pitching, defeated them 14-0 and just destroyed them in the last 3 games of that best of 7. But one thing that Bobby Cox has, well, that he cannot count on, he won't be able to come from a 3-1 deficit in this series.
No.
If the Cardinals make it 3-1, they move on. This is a best of 5. Kyle over to shortstop. Long throw by Furcal. He's got a great arm, and the tag by Galarraga, who came off the bag, and that is the inning. But 3 more runs for the Cardinals. Galarraga coming up, 7-2 St. Louis. Turned the game around after a 2-run Atlanta first inning. Clark came up with 2 on and 1 out in the last of the first, and he went deep against Tom Glavine. Then Darryl Kyle, who was very ragged in the first inning, struck out Reggie Sanders, Keith Lockhart, and Tom Glavine, and the Braves have not put another man on base. They had 2 runs on the board and a runner at second base in the first inning, and then Darryl Kyle shut the door, and it had to have helped a little bit, at least his psyche, Joe, that after his ragged start, that the Cardinals got it back and more in the very next half.
Well, I think that's the key. They came right back and scored 3 runs to put him ahead, so he was feeling good about himself again as he went out there, and you can see what he's done since that point.
Galarraga, curveball in the dirt, 1 ball, 1 strike. Galarraga hit a double his first time. That was part of that first inning rally. Furcal walked, went to second and a hit and run ground out. Chipper Jones brought him home with a single, and Galarraga doubled. And then Jordan hit an infield out, getting Jones home. And they had 2 runs on the board, only 5 batters into the game. But it's been all Cardinals ever since. Glavine is now out of the game, and Kyle has retired 8 straight Atlanta Braves. He dropped down from the side. Well, he's got it all working right now.
Yeah. I know the Atlanta Braves pitchers and their team, they never make excuses. But I would wonder if, you know, Tom Glavine feels good, because he did not throw 1 curveball the entire ball game, either to a left-hander or a right-hander, and he's got a good curveball.
Dropped down again, this time with a fastball, and Galarraga fouls it off. 2-2. Well, Rafael Furcal has been battling a flu-like bug.
Right.
In fact, they had an optional workout yesterday. Only 3 players did not attend. Furcal was here but did not work out. And he chases the breaking ball. Strike 3.
Well, we've seen this before. Darryl Kyle gets 2 strikes on you, and he throws that big hook, and it's very difficult to lay off of it because you know it's coming. And the one thing you do with a curveball, when you know a curveball is coming, you will chase it. I mean, that ball is, see how far that pitch is outside? There's nothing that he could do with it. But because it's a curveball and you know it's coming, you just swing at it anyway, and it's so far off the plate, you're out, an easy out.
Ryan Jordan takes a strike.
You may say, well, they're 5 runs behind. They need to try to get work to count, do whatever. I disagree with a guy like Kyle. You're going to have to attack him. If you let him just throw you first pitch fastballs to strike, he will be able to get you out. If he can just sit there and say, I'm going to throw it down the middle because they're taking, he's going to be more successful, because once he's ahead of you, it's tough to handle it.
And Darryl Kyle being handled by Carlos Hernandez, who, as Alvaro Martina told us just before the game, had only caught Darryl Kyle 5 innings this year after coming over. And they seem to have warmed up to each other very nicely here. Polanco throws out Jordan. Out number 2. Here is Alvaro Martin. Alvaro.
Well, John, Carlos Hernandez started having back problems in 1994. He doesn't remember how they started. He does remember. He does know that they're very, very painful. And at any moment, his back could give out. And when that happens, he's usually out for a couple of weeks. So the Cards will be down to Eli Marrero as their only catcher. Now, he's been talking a lot with Sean Dunston, who had chronic back problems. Dunston takes about 10 minutes in getting out of bed with doing stretching exercises in the morning. Now he's doing that. He will have an operation. Carlos will have an operation on 2 bulging discs at the end of the season.
All right, Alvaro, thank you. And here's Javier Lopez. First ball swinging, and he is gone. The 20-game winner, Kyle, is on a roll. 11 in a row retired. Top of the order coming up for St. Louis.
Get to know your neighbors.
He's been to prison. He's paid his debt to society.
Take one cool
In St. Louis for the Braves so far. These first two games could have been in Atlanta, however, but on Sunday in the ninth inning with Colorado, 2 down, and Chipper Jones couldn't field the ground ball. The inning stayed alive, and then Todd Helton on a 2-strike pitch hit a 3-run homer. The Colorado Rockies won the game, and the Braves had to come here instead, and everything went wrong. Jim Edmonds hitting a home run for the 7th run of the game. Now today, Will Clark launching a 3-run blast against Tom Glavine. The 21-game winner the Braves were counting on to bail them out here of this predicament. But for Glavine, not today. And Bobby Cox said, hey, we know he'll pitch well. We've seen him do it so many times before. And you know the Braves had complete confidence. Even though they were down 1-0, Joe, and they needed a win today, they had Glavine out there. But Glavine, there was something, there may be a story after this game, Joe, because as you mentioned, he was not using his whole arsenal, his whole repertoire.
No, he did not. But I'll tell you another thing. This Cardinal team doesn't have the same fear of the Braves that most teams have had in the past. But I think the Braves and the Yankees, the teams that appeared in the World Series last year, really hurt themselves by losing the home field advantage down the stretch. I think if the first game Tuesday would have been in Atlanta, it probably would have been a different story. The same with the Yankees as far as Oakland is concerned. You need the home field advantage in a short series, especially if you're the champion, because there's something about that first game being at your place that gives you an added edge. And I think the Cardinals starting here, after thinking they were going to have to start in Atlanta, it's really helped them.
Fernando Vina lines one right to Andres Galarraga. There is one away as Andy Ashby works here in the 4th inning. The batter will be Edgar Renteria. Catcher Javier Lopez is wearing mask cam in the catcher's box today.
Now let's go back to that one more time. On Sunday, the Cardinals were playing. They're thinking that they have their bags packed. They're ready to go to Atlanta. And all of a sudden, you're going to be the host. Just think what that does for you, you know, psychologically. And you're the Braves. You're sitting there thinking, well, we'll start here on Tuesday. They're planning their day Monday, what they're going to do at home. All of a sudden, now you have to go to the Cardinals. I think that made a big difference in the first game yet on Tuesday.
I mean, it's been very rare to see the Braves lose a game that had some real significance to it, that they had iced with 2 down in the 9th inning. I mean, it was really stunning. And it started with the error by Chipper Jones, and then the 3-run homer by Todd Helton, but on an 0-2 pitch.
But I actually think they were ahead 5-2. I know they were ahead 5-3 and couldn't close the deal. You know, they're in the late innings there. They were ahead 5-3 in the 7th, and they could not close it out. And you're right, that's very unusual for a Braves team not to be able to close out a game when they really need it like that.
And as we look for Mascan, that's a called strike 3-2 to Renteria. Renteria started the 3-run 3rd inning rally with a base hit. Well, the other thing was Rocker got knocked around so badly. It was a 7-run inning ultimately for Colorado, all scoring after 2 were down. That is foul. 3-2 the count. Then it raised some concern about Rocker's well-being. I mean, they really wanted him to have a successful outing here on Tuesday, and it was a real mediocre outing by Rocker. He had a hard time throwing strikes. He threw away a pickoff throw and seemed to get a little rattled by the crowd, and finally was taken out of the game before finishing the inning. That's ball 4 to Renteria. Third walk drawn by Cardinal hitters, plus they've had a batter hit by a pitch. Here's Jim Edmonds. Edmonds in his first postseason, it did not take him long to get comfortable. You know, they used to talk about sometimes it was difficult for a hitter to move from one league to the other. Didn't know the pitchers, didn't know the surroundings. Well, Edmonds, I mean, right away got red hot at the very beginning of the season. Ended up signing a long contract extension as he discovered what McGuire predicted he would discover about playing here. Well, now he's in the postseason. He had 2 singles and a homer in his first 3 at-bats on Tuesday against Greg Maddux. And now today he has walked and doubled in his 2 trips up. Both of those were against Tom Glavine. 0-1 the count to Edmonds. Renteria and Furls 1 out. Renteria runs. The semi pitch out. One hot throw goes into center field. Renteria will hold at second. Andrew Jones backs it up.
Well, it's a fastball up and away, so a good pitch for Harvey to throw on. He comes out and actually would have had him if he'd made a good throw. Ball bounces and skids through for Call. Lockhart backs up. He couldn't stop it, but Andrew Jones backs up, and they hold Renteria at second base with stolen base.
That was the next best thing to a pitch out.
Yes.
And he still didn't get it. Cardinals, 2, 3, 4 guys. They've been all over the bases. Renteria, Edmonds, and Clark. They have scored 6 runs, 2 each. Renteria, Edmonds, and Clark. Down the left field line into the corner. And Sanders disappears. It's a fair ball. I don't know what happened, but he did not catch it. Scoring is Renteria. Edmonds at second. 8-2 St. Louis. Here's a look now. We'll find out what happened.
Well, the fastball was actually in the middle of the plate. Edmonds thought the ball was going to go foul, and he waited, and I think Sanders thought it was going to go out, so he made a leap up on the wall, and the ball hits the 330 sign.
Wow. But I mean, it looks like he mistimed his leap.
Well, I think he misjudged the ball because I think he thought it was going out, and he was going to have to get over the yellow line, and he didn't have to get up that high. But everybody thought it was a foul ball. Edmonds didn't even run at first. He thought it was going to be a foul ball.
So there may be some wind that was helping push that one back toward Fairground, because the way he leaped for it,
right,
is like the ball went behind him where he was leaping. Ball 4 to Clark on the intentional walk. 2 men on. The batter will be Eric Davis.
You know, a lot of people say, well, why do you walk Will Clark in this situation? You know, you're already down. You're putting another runner on base. I think it's good if you're Bobby Cox, because what you're saying to him, I'm going to try to keep this guy from staying in that groove that he was in. He's swinging the bat well. If I can only pitch to him one more time this game and maybe get him out, well, that'll help us in our next ball game. But right now, Will Clark is hot. You don't want to let him continue along those lines.
Here's Eric Davis. 1-1. Davis has grounded to second and hit a sacrifice fly. In 1989, the Cubs never could cool him off. You know, in that same series, another first baseman had a great series for the Cubs. Mark Grace, who is also in the ballpark here today. Mark Grace working this series for ESPN Radio. I mean, Will Clark and Mark Grace put on 2 of the greatest demonstrations of hitting in big games that's ever been seen in a single postseason series. Mark Grace.
That's him, the guy with the ball spot there. Well, everyone's used to sitting with his hat on, so they're not sure.
And that's a big bald spot. 0-2 the count. Strike 3 call. Davis was not happy about that call. Alvaro Martinez standing by. Alvaro.
Well, John, Mark Grace is here to work the game, but also he's extremely close with Sean Dunston, with whom he played for almost a decade in Chicago. As a matter of fact, when you go to each player's locker room, they have a picture of the other player prominently displayed.
Wow, that's interesting. Hey, Mark. Say hi. And Wayne Hagan, Ordino, the voice of the Colorado Rockies, who's working the play-by-play with Mark Grace on ESPN Radio. That's a called strike. And they'll be together throughout the postseason on ESPN Radio. Throughout this series, which is it?
Well, I thought you were doing aren't you doing the World Series?
ESPN Radio will have the whole postseason.
Oh, okay.
Those 2 will not necessarily do
right.
every single game.
So I was planning on listening to you.
That's a called strike. 0-2 the count to Ray Langford. He had a 2-run double his last time. And I me just say, Mark Grace, an outstanding first baseman, great knowledge of the game. But, you know, all first basemen are limited, I think, in their knowledge. So you only get a certain amount of expertise. Unlike yourself, Joe, a second baseman
He saw the whole
who
field.
saw everything. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, what does he have to know as a first baseman? Just be sure and you can grab that ball in the dirt. Right?
Yeah.
Catch low throws.
Put your foot on the bag and catch it. Just put your foot there and stretch out.
So, I mean, anytime there's a player out first, go to Mark Grace. He's got the insight on that. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Ray Langford. 2-2. Another run has scored in this inning. A walk to Renteria. He stole second. Although the Braves were set up nicely to throw him out trying to steal, but Lopez made a poor throw. And Edmonds hit the double. And a ball that might have been blown about by the wind a little bit. Lockhart to his left. And that retires the side. The Cardinals, however, have scored in every inning of the game. They lead 8-2 as we go to the 5th inning. Stadium. Coming up, Sunday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. The Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coverage begins with NFL primetime at 7:30 Eastern on Sunday. Then, over on ABC, Monday Night Football at 9 Eastern on ABC. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Minnesota Vikings. Coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown on ESPN at 7:30. That's Monday night before Monday Night Football. There's strike one to Reggie Sanders. Sanders struck out swinging his first time against Darryl Kyle.
Well, Sanders was really swinging the bat well down the stretch. And when he is hitting well, he adds a real bigger dimension to this ball club than anyone else that plays left field for them. He adds speed. He's a good defensive outfielder. And he has some power.
Hit 400 down in September. 1-1 the count. Down and then he ended up playing most of the month because of the quadricep injury to B.J. Surhoff, who has been limited to being used only as a pinch hitter since September the 7th.
The Braves have a unique situation in the outfield. They have 3 players who can play center field, and that's unusual. When you have 3 outfielders that could all play center field, that gives you a very special outfield. Well, John acted like he was going to catch that one.
2-2 the count.
But if you have Reggie Sanders could play center field, Brian Jordan could play center field, and of course Andrew Jones could play center field. There's Greg Maddux, game 1 loser for the Braves. And he's probably chomping at the bit to get back out there and give another shot.
Well, the way it's going, he may well be back out there on Saturday in game 3. And he would be working with 3 days rest, but he only went 4 innings in game 1 on Tuesday, only threw 73 pitches.
And that's amazing because he pitched through 88 pitches, I think, for a complete game shutout earlier this year.
Again, Keel would be due back in game 4. Cardinals could go with one of 3 different pitchers in game 3. Pat Henkin is one of them. Garrett Stevenson, who won 16 games for them, or the veteran Andy Venice. Fastball struck him out. The high hard one.
And that has always been his weakness. That pitch has always been the weakness of Reggie Sanders, the high fastball, but he was doing a better job of laying off of it when he was hitting well in September. He doesn't handle that fastball up very well. And Darryl Kyle goes right upstairs with a good fastball.
So the best way for him to handle it is just no swing.
Right, exactly. And he was doing that pretty well in September, but with 2 strikes, you get full count. Sometimes you go a little bit out of your zone.
Keith Lockhart, 1-1 the count. The pitcher, Ashby, is due up next. Curveball. Will Clark, he waves off Kyle. 2-man gone. And now Wally Joyner, who had come out on deck, is going to go back to the dugout. And B.J. Surhoff comes out instead. John Burkett, a right-hander, is warming up in the Atlanta bullpen. So it will be B.J. Surhoff here, who will pinch hit. rather than Joyner.
Well, normally you save one of your everyday players late in the ball game for your last pinch hitter, but the reason they do not want to do that is because BJ's not running well, and if he has to hit with men in scoring position, runners on base, he becomes a liability as far as the double play is concerned. So without anyone on bases, they're going to send him up to hit. They'll save Joyner for that situation later on in the ball game if it applies where they're trying to make a comeback and they need a left-handed bat.
Surhoff was Will Clark's teammate the last couple of seasons in Baltimore. And unlike Will Clark, who seemed to become a totally revitalized player when he got traded, Surhoff did not want to be traded. He drills that one. It is off the wall. And Surhoff, who just cannot run well, when he tried to accelerate rounding first, he came up lame and had to go back to first.
And that's what I was talking about. You do not want him hitting. If he'd hit a ground ball, they could have to the triple play probably, but he gets the base hit, and BJ's going to trot off. Greg Maddux will pinch run for him. I mean, he drills this ball and he's trotting. He could still make it just at this speed, but when he rounded first, his leg gave out on him and he fell down and he had to go back to first base. And a nice play off the wall there by Jim Edmonds to get the ball back in very quickly.
That's been the problem for Surhoff. Every time he has tried to accelerate, it just catches in that quadricep muscle, and he just can't do it. So Maddux is the runner. Failed for a call. Now, that was sort of the swing of a 20-year-old. I mean, down by 6 runs. And that was a pitch for him to take.
Well, he was going big fly. He was trying to get them back in the ball game. And when you're down 6 runs, you are going to have to hit some balls out of the ballpark if you're going to get back in the ball game.
A high, lazy fly out to left center, Langford, and that is the inning. 1 hit, and this is now an official game. Come what may, it is 8-2 St. Louis. It rained during the night and through the morning in St. Louis. But they took the tarp off less than an hour before game time. And although we had a little bit of rainfall during the early innings, there has been no stoppage of play. It's just been a barrage of runs by the Cardinals. And here's the latest Atlanta pitcher to come in and try and stem this tide. Here is John Burkett, the veteran right-hander. And Burkett, Greg Maddux paid him the highest compliment. As he says John Burkett doesn't have the best stuff on this staff, but he's the best pitcher on this staff.
That is a high compliment.
On the staff that has guys like Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine. And Burkett got the win in a game we televised on ESPN 9 days ago in Shea Stadium when the Braves clinched the Eastern Division title. And Burkett went 6 innings, only gave up 1 run in that game, left with a big lead.
Well, he looked like a great pitcher that night because what he was doing is changing speeds, moving the ball in and out, up and down. He used all of the plate, and I think that's what Greg was referring to.
Carlos Hernandez is the batter. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Hernandez launched a home run in the second. He struck out in the third.
And this is a completely different John Burkett than the one that played with Will Clark in San Francisco when he had that great sinking fastball.
Toward the middle, Furcal, who covers a lot of ground and has a great arm, throws him out. You know, Greg Maddux says that Furcal has an even better arm than his old teammate from his Cubs days, Sean Dunston.
Dunston argued that point,
He did.
Dunston said, hey, he's pretty good, but his arm is not as strong as mine. He said, maybe more accurate, but not stronger. And he's right, because Sean could throw some in the cheap seats. he had a great arm, and every once in a while it would get away from him.
Placido Polanco now. He is lined out to center and been walked intentionally. The 8th place hitter. Now Burkett, if he were starting this game, he wants that one to be called a strike. That's where he lives, right down around the knees. 1 ball, no strikes to count. See, Joe, I'm not talking about Terry Kraft. I'm just talking in general.
In general, okay.
If that pitch, that first one, is not a strike, then the one up at the letters has got to be called a strike. I would say nothing if the one at the letters is called a strike.
So either if you're not a low ball umpire, you have to be a high ball.
Yeah,
umpire.
you can't be neither one. Yeah.
You can't be a middle of the plate umpire, middle of the belt umpire, right?
Yeah. 2-1 the count.
Well, you know, my argument is that they need to put more emphasis on calling the high strike, the one that's in the rule book, because I think that will help pitchers, and pitchers do need help. That will help pitchers more than anything else. That helps pitchers more than widening the plate or anything else. If they can pitch up and down, I think that's where they can really change some of the discipline that some of these hitters have.
3-1 the count to Polanco. Right through the middle, but there's Furcal again. There's that arm. Oh, I don't know, Joe.
Kind of handcuffed the big cat right there, too.
Well, you know, Maddox said that he and Dunston are the only shortstops he's ever seen where the first baseman winces when he catches the throw. And Wally Jordan agrees, says, yeah, it hurts when Furcal throws to you.
There's Sean Dunston. He played shortstop for a lot of years with the Chicago Cubs.
You know, and he's reinvented himself as a player now late in his career. Still a superb athlete, runs well, and now he's become very serviceable as a left fielder, a center fielder. He play first base. And that was not an easy adjustment to make for a guy who was really one of the top shortstops in the game for a long time.
John, very few shortstops will move to another position. Ozzie Smith didn't want to do it. Barry Larkin does not want to do it. Once a shortstop, always a shortstop. That's the way they believe. I mean, that's the mentality of a shortstop. It's in my opinion, the toughest position to play properly on the field, and therefore, once you master it, you do not want to go anyplace else. And I talked to Barry Larkin. In fact, Ken Griffey Jr. was teasing him last weekend when in San Francisco, and he said, you know, this guy wouldn't move over to second base. He said, hey, I'm a shortstop. He said, I came in as a shortstop, I will leave as a shortstop. And that's the mentality that most of them have. And Ozzie Smith, of course, a great shortstop, had that same attitude.
2-2 the count. Well, Walt Weiss, a longtime shortstop, now with Atlanta, talking about maybe retiring at the end of this year. Over the second. Darryl Kyle is thrown out by Lockhart. A 3-up, 3-down inning, which had become extinct. Now for the Braves, Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones, and Galarraga coming up. They're down 8-2. Plenty right now for the St. Louis Cardinals. Everything they've done has gone right, from Tony La Russa's strategy of saving Kyle, his ace, for game 2 and going with the rookie in game 1. It's all turned out beautifully so far for St. Louis, as they are in pretty good shape to go up 2-0 heading to Atlanta. And let's face it, even going to Atlanta with a split, it's real iffy because they play well in their ballpark.
Well, but remember before, when they were down 3-1, they had Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox waiting for them. That's a little different. Now they've already beaten Maddox. They're ahead of Glavine, and Smoltz can't pitch. So this is a different Braves team than the one that always felt like they could come back from the 3-1 deficit with their pitching. They always believed that their pitchers could win any series for them.
They have Kevin Millwood available, who has not pitched yet, although he did not have the big season that he'd had a year ago. A year ago, when he pitched game 2 against the Astros, he had a monster season, and by the time that season was over, he might have been the best pitcher in the National League. But this year he finished under 500, and in fact, it could well be that Greg Maddux will make the start on Saturday in game 3 rather than Millwood.
If Maddux is able to make the start, and the competitor he is, if it was me, I'd send him out there, because he's chomping at the bit, knowing that he did not pitch as well as he's capable, knowing things didn't go as well as they should have. But he is quite a competitor. I mean, so you want him out there.
A walk to Andrew Jones, which is not what Kyle had hoped. Kyle had, after giving up a couple of runs in the first inning, had a stretch where he retired 13 straight batters until Surhoff hit the pinch hit single in the 5th inning. Now he walks Andrew Jones starting off the 6th. Now Chipper Jones, Galarraga, and Jordan behind him. Chipper has singled home a run and grounded out to second. Well, I keep thinking could have called it a strike. But
Well, Darryl Kyle, you know, obviously wanted that pitch, and Chipper looked like he was taken all the way.
he throws that pitch again. Chipper probably hit it 400 feet. 1 ball, no strikes to Chipper Jones, the switch hitter, batting left-handed. A strike.
Remember the comment Al Leiter made to me earlier this year? He said, it's great to be a hitter in this day and age. He said, the high fastball, if you swing at it, you hit it out of the ballpark. If you take it, it's a ball. He said it's great to be a hitter.
Not having much of a chance to hit these days. Limited to use only as a pinch hitter because of the patellar tendonitis in his knee. Oh, the big curveball. Strike 2 call.
You know, obviously it's a long ways off, but if they were to get into the World Series, could he DH in those opposing parks?
Well, that's the, I mean, the thing they're afraid with McGuire is not just that he can't play the field, but Marusa doesn't want to use him in spots where a double play could hurt them, because if he hit a ground ball, it would be a sure double play. He can't run. And he's also, if he gets on base, he immediately puts in a pinch runner for him. So
yeah, that's different. But I tell you what, he can stay out of double plays because he can lift. He can get the ball in the air.
fastball up and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Tom Glavine today, the 21-game winner against Kyle, the 20-game winner. Glavine lasted only 2 1/3 innings. That's the shortest outing in a start for Glavine since 1993. And Maddox and Glavine pitching back-to-back games and getting knocked out early, which is extraordinary. Curveball hit high in the air to center. Edmonds, plenty of room out there. 1 away. But in 203 times where they have pitched consecutively, one after the other, only one other time did Glavine and Maddox both allow more runs than innings pitched. That was June 7th and 8th at Coors Field, of all places, 1996. I guess if it was going to happen, that's where it would happen.
Exactly. But now it's happened here in Busch Stadium.
Yeah. This ballpark seems to be playing a lot smaller than it used to.
It definitely is smaller than it was years ago. But a lot of the parks are smaller, and a lot of the powerful players are making them smaller. I mean, there's no doubt the players are bigger and stronger than ever before with the smaller ballparks. The livelier baseball. It is very difficult for pitchers to be successful and continue to have lower earned run averages.
Maddox, 4 innings pitched, 7 runs total in those 4 innings. 2 innings for Glavine, 7 runs total, all earned. 1 ball, no strikes.
My buddy Peter Pasquarelli reminds me that the bats are also livelier. The bats are actually harder. They found different, methods to make bats, new wood from different places. Yeah, they use maple, now they use a lot of different. They used to use white ash only, and they were running out of good white ash. Now they use a lot of different.
Well, in the swimming pools at the Olympic Games in Sydney, they were lively.
Yeah, they're faster. Everything's faster.
They juiced the swimming pools.
Everything is faster.
2-0 the count to Colorado. Well, it is true. I mean, they've shown statistically, our friends at the Elias Bureau have shown that Wrigley Field and Fenway Park, which 10, 12 years ago were the great hitters' ballparks in the 2 leagues, are now just average. That's the average ballpark.
Rick Rhoden, who used to pitch for the Dodgers, he said to me one day, he said, "You ever think that we think of Wrigley Field as a pitcher's park?" He said, "Well, we're getting there." And he's right. We're getting close.
Sammy Sosa hit 50 homers this year, which is incredibly strong considering he plays such a good pitcher's ballpark.
Right.
3-1 now to Colorado. Well, Safeco Field in Seattle, of the new ballparks, and Turner Field in Atlanta, they're 2 ballparks that are real fair to the pitchers. In fact, you could say at Safeco Field especially, it really favors the pitchers, which is not good news for the Chicago White Sox, who have a whole lot of sluggers who have not yet started slugging in this postseason. Comerica Park in Detroit. You and I have not.
Well, I haven't been there.
No, we haven't been there. But we hear that it's vast.
Yeah, I heard it's pretty big.
Juan Gonzalez would like to see him bring the fences in.
Yes. Well, I also read they were going to bring it in, the right field fence in, and go out and find some left-handed batters. So I did read that in the paper. But then again, everything you read in the paper is not always accurate.
Well, what paper are you reading?
This is when I was online in the Detroit Free Press.
Well, they're very reliable.
Okay.
3-1 the count to Galarraga. Now the right field line. That one is a foul ball. That's sort of the way it's been going for the Braves. So Andrew Jones will go back to first. Galarraga will try it again. 3 balls, 2 strikes to the big cat here in the 6th inning.
Fastball away. He tries to go the other way. He hit a double inside the line. His first at bat. But this one is foul.
What they ought to do is they ought to exchange the deep wall at Comerica Park for that short wall at Enron Field.
Oh, man.
There's a thought. Oh, man. Now that was a great pitch. The high, hard one with movement in on Galarraga.
And, John, this is why I say if they could just raise the strike zone to where it's supposed to be, that it would help the pitchers, because raising it would also raise the hitters' eyes. They would swing at a few more high pitches, and that would really help the pitchers. That pitch there was just a great pitch with 2 strikes.
The Panasonic in-game box score for the Braves. Braves only have 3 hits in the game, and one by the pinch hitter Surhoff. They bunched up their first 2 hits with a walk in the first inning and got 2 runs right away. They led the game against Kyle 2-0. That was a real downer. I mean, here was Kyle, the ace for the Cardinals, and the Braves roughed him up right away. But then Will Clark with a 3-run homer in the last of the first, and Kyle has been almost untouchable ever since. Curveball in the dirt. Nice save there by Carlos Hernandez, and the count is 2-0. Brian Jordan is 0 for 2.
You know, you really have to give the Cardinals a lot of credit, John, because they suspected that McGuire was going to come back sooner than he was, but they still went out and got Will Clark. I mean, that took a lot of, thought. It took a lot of, really they took a chance, because what happens if Mark McGuire comes right back or he gets well? Then Will Clark wouldn't have been able to play. There's Walt Jocketty. He's the vice president, because a lot of people wondering, you're getting Will Clark, a guy that's not hitting any home runs in the American League, to replace your home run hitter here. And they really didn't know that they were going to get this type of a Will Clark, a guy that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, and he's been rejuvenated here, and he's done a great job. But that was a great trade. I mean, a great move on their part.
How about getting Darryl Kyle? That was a pretty good trade.
Well, they've also made a lot of good trades this year. They got Jim Edmonds, of course.
That was a pretty good trade.
Yeah, they got, some pitchers from a lot of different places.
Pat Henkin, that worked out
Fernando
well.
Vena. I mean, they've made some good trades. So maybe Walt Jocketty's going to get some votes for Executive of the Year, because he has done a good job here.
So would he have your vote?
Yes, I'll give him a vote. I don't get one, but if you want me to, I'll give him mine.
3-1 the count to Brian Jordan. Well, when they get to Atlanta on Saturday, the question will be, will that Braves crowd, which usually is not very lively, will they raise the level of their cheering as a help to the Braves? Here in St. Louis, it's all Cardinals. They lead 8-2. Top of the order coming up.
See that?
8-2. The Cardinals leading the Braves. Last of the 6th inning here in St. Louis. Tomorrow, more coverage of the division series, beginning at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2 with Baseball Tonight. Then at 4 o'clock Eastern on ESPN 3 Central. The White Sox try to stay alive in Seattle. Then at 8 o'clock tomorrow Eastern Time on NBC Game 3 from Yankee Stadium. The Athletics and the New York Yankees. And at 11 Eastern on ESPN. Tune into SportsCenter for all the scores, highlights, and analysis of what all happened in all the games. And Burkett hits Fernando Vena starting off the 6th inning. Burkett, who had retired the side in order in his first inning, the 5th inning, trying to work out of the stretch.
Well, Vina, again, he just turns into it as Will Clark. He doesn't really try to get out of the way. He just turns in and lets it hit him.
Now, I mean, speaking of the rule book, Joe,
you're supposed to try make an attempt to get out of the way, right?
I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there are a lot of rules in this book that are pretty clear that aren't followed, like the high strike and a few other things, but he definitely did not try to get out of the way. Will Clark didn't try to get out of the way either when he was hit.
I mean, somebody called it this year, I think it was in a Cubs-Mets game at Shea Stadium. And, you know, the hounds of hell descended upon the plate umpire. I think it was a Cubs batter. It might have been Eric Young. And he got hit by a pitch, and the umpire would not let him go to first base. You know, and it seems to me that Don Baylor was not happy about that.
Well, Don took a few for the team. Well, but you can understand Fernando Vina, he's a leadoff hitter. If you hit it, he'll take one for the team. And his mindset is to get on base any way that he can. So, being honest with you, a guy like Vina or Eric Young, if they're leadoff hitters, take it for the team.
Biggio.
Yeah, Biggio.
Biggio wears all that armor.
Yeah, now these guys don't have armor on, so you have to give them a little more respect for not wearing the armor and taking it.
You know, Vina hardly ever walks as Mulholland gets up in the Atlanta bullpen, the left-hander. Vina only walked 36 times. So you say, well, he needs improvement there.
Yeah,
he's a leadoff guy. But he got hit 28 times. 28.
Well, he's taking it for the team.
Right field, there's Jordan. So that is out number 1, Renteria. Now 1 for 3 with a walk, but it's one of the most productive 1 for 3s I've ever seen. He scored 3 runs.
Well, I said that Jordan and Reggie Sanders and Andrew Jones, very good outfielders. You see, he makes that look very easy. There's Kyle. Everything's going well for him and the Cardinals.
They lead 8-2. Here's Jim Edmonds. It's a called strike. But it'd be interesting to see, Joe. I mean, we've been in Atlanta now for some of these division series the last 3 years, and we've seen real quiet, almost dead crowds there. We haven't seen sellouts. We've seen, you know, the fans making almost no noise. Andrew Jones dives, but he can't catch it. Vina going to be held, but he runs through the stop sign. For Kyle with a high throw. He scores. To third is Edmonds. Vina just said, I'm going for it. And he almost ran over Oquendo, but for Kyle's throw was too high. 9-2 St. Louis.
Well, that's having too strong an arm, because he fired it, but he overthrew it, because when he got the ball, I thought Vina was going to be out, because Carl has such a good arm. This ball hit the left center field. It appeared that Andrew Jones might get there, but he can't quite get there. It bounces away. Now, here's the throw, a high throw, and he still dives in, which is very dangerous, because your shoulders hit the shin guard, and you can really injure yourself.
So a double, a run batted in for Edmonds. Will Clark coming up. An error on for Carl. We've got Mulholland coming in. We'll be back. There's the veteran lefty Terry Mulholland taking over the mound. Runner at third base, 1 out. Atlanta brings its infield in. Will Clark is the hitter. 2 former teammates from the San Francisco Giants going head-to-head here. And Mulholland throws in a slider for a strike. Terry Mulholland is one of the most durable arms in the game. And he has that ability to pitch often in relief, but also make a start. And sometimes to do both within a few days. Dribbled right out in front of the plate. Lopez, after first checking Edmonds, throws out Clark. The first time Clark has been retired in the game. Alvaro Martin is standing by. Alvaro.
John, we're joined by Carmelite Huber at my extreme left and by Marie Clark, both Will Clark's grandmothers. Carmelite, you're the maternal grandmother. What's the first memory, baseball memory of Will that you can remember?
Well, when he was 7 years old, he'd play ball in our backyard, and he'd hit the ball over our fence, over into somebody else's yard, and he'd make his old grandpa run after it because he's dead. He would say to him, gee, someday I'm going to hit it very, very far, then you're going to really beat me up.
Well, he certainly did it today. And Marie, you've seen him now play since the San Francisco days. Is he as happy as you've seen him?
Oh, yes. He is very happy now, just as happy as he ever was in San Francisco, even happier.
Well, thank you for joining us. They've been following him for 15 years. There's about 24 members of the Clark-Hubert family here today. No wonder the stadium sells out.
Bringing Will Clark in. That was a great business move at the turnstiles, as it turns out. Here is Eric Davis, almost a wild pitch. But Edmonds held on at third. Eric Davis 0 for 2 with a sacrifice fly. Blew that one right by him. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Terry Mulholland was an integral part of the Chicago Cubs winning the wild card berth in 1998. He made some starts down the stretch. He was a top relief pitcher. Over his head for Kyle behind the bag. There's that arm. Galarraga with Davis doing a high hurdle to avoid hurting Galarraga. That's the inning. Another run. Another double for Edmonds. It is 9-2 St. Louis after 6. Well, it started out threateningly that we might not even be able to play this game with all the rain they had here in St. Louis. Skies are beginning to clear overhead now. And there's the groundskeeper's room radar screen, Joe. What do you think? What do you make of it? Does that look good? Here's the pitch now. A curveball from Javier Lopez misses from Darryl Kyle. Ball 1. 9-2 the score. Where's St. Louis in that?
Right there. There you go. See right there, man.
That looks like Belleville.
Yeah, but just to the left, right there, St. Louis.
Okay. All right.
I was trying to give us the benefit of a doubt.
Belleville looks pretty clear.
Yeah, the clearness in Belleville's moving over this way.
Ah, yeah. It's our ESPN staff meteorologist, Joe Morgan. What about the 5-day forecast? What do you got for Atlanta on Saturday?
They better score some runs early. But you were talking about the Atlanta Braves fans, and you're right. I think that when they're down, that's when they seem to come out and support the Braves. They really do. I mean, the Braves came back that year. They were down 3-1 to the Cardinals. They got real good fan support. And I think they'll get fan support this time because I think sometimes they take it for granted that the Braves are going to win.
Well, I think they take it for granted all the time.
Yeah, but if they go down 2-0, that will change a little bit.
Sidearm curve, and Kyle with that big overhand dropping curve for a strike, then the sidearm curve for a strike.
Well, that's a little nasty because it starts right at Reggie Sanders and he buckles a little bit and it breaks over for a strike.
Fastball, and that didn't miss by much. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 1 out, nobody on. Sanders has struck out twice already in this game. Now the bullpen is busy. For the first time, there's activity in the St. Louis bullpen now. Sanders, there's some dirt. I wonder when you rub dirt between your hands when you're wearing 2 gloves, what does that do to help with the gloves?
Well, I was thinking maybe it had some pine tar in there, just makes it stickier.
And that curveball is blooped. And Edmonds out number 2. 1996, the Braves were down 3-1 and had to win 3 in a row, starting with a game here in St. Louis, and they did against Todd Stottlemyre. Chipper Jones got him started in the first inning, driving in the first run, and it just got worse and worse for the Cardinals. Javier Lopez, and nobody caught it. And then later, Tom Glavine even got in the act. That went for a triple. Ron Gant couldn't catch it. They won that game 14-0. Then they went back to Atlanta. They won 3-1, and they won the final game 15-0 and outscored the Cardinals 32-1 in those last 3 games. A stunning turnaround. Then they went to the World Series against the Yankees, and at Yankee Stadium they lit up the Yankees for 2 straight games. Looked like it was never going to win. That's a fair ball. Lockhart will hold on as Davis retrieves that ball after the deflection off the box seat railing. Single for Lockhart. Wally Joyner has been on deck, and he will come up as a pinch hitter now for Mulholland.
See, the ball goes over the bag, but then it lands foul. But if as long as it went over the bag on a ground ball, it is a fair ball. It doesn't have to hit in the fair territory behind the bag. There's Jerry Crawford. One of the best umpires in the game.
He is the crew chief for this crew. Bobby Cox. And do the Braves have any miracles in their bag right now? Because the Cardinals have just stunned them here in these first 2 games. I don't think that there was any question that they knew the Cardinals were capable of beating them, but I don't know that they could ever have thought that the Cardinals or any other team were capable of roughing up both Maddox and Glavine the way the Cardinals have. Wally Joyner, one of the rookies of the class of 1986, as was Will Clark, as was Terry Mulholland for that matter, and a lot of others who are still in the game, such as Barry Bonds. Came up with the Angels. Kyle throws in the big curveball into his own 1.
John, I think if there's anything that playoff teams have learned this year about the playoffs, and that is, especially when you're playing best of 5, that the home field advantage is far more important than ever before. And I really believe that because teams are closely matched. They're so evenly matched that one little turn here or there can make a difference, and you always play better at home.
Well, these 4 teams in the National League, right, all won between 94 and 97 games. Talk about close. The Giants won 97. The Cardinals and Braves won 95 each. The Mets won 94. Jason Christensen, a left-hander, up in the Cardinal bullpen, 97. And all 4 of those teams won 50 games or more at home. I mean, they all had sensational home records.
Well, the Giants and the Mets had the best home record. So, and I mean, it's just one of those situations where if anything's close to even, you better have the home field advantage.
Wally Joyner with a count of 2-1. Joyner hit .281 in the regular season. He fouls that one back out of play. Still a very fine fielding first baseman. He had 13 pinch hits this year to lead the Braves in that category. He and Bobby Bonilla give them some veteran presence on that bench to come up late in the game to get a big hit. It's Bobby Bonilla. The curveball misses.
And the fans really want to umpire.
Now to Wally Joyner. Tony La Russa. And the idea, and it was a calculated risk of saving his 20-game winner Kyle for this game rather than having him go in game 1. Runner going, the ball is driven to shallow center. Edmonds. So Kyle has a 4-hitter going through 7. And the Cardinals are way ahead, 9-2. Cardinals 9, the Braves 2. We go to the last time of the 7th inning in St. Louis. Here's the Panasonic in-game box score for the Cardinals. And a lot of hits and runs bunched up at the top. Renteria scored 3, hitting in the 2nd spot. Jim Edmonds has equaled a postseason other than World Series record with 3 doubles. Will Clark a 3-run homer in the first. Carlos Hernandez a home run. Darryl Kyle with 7 innings of 4-hit pitching. Never allowed a run after the first inning. And a lot of congratulatory handshakes there as he went off. Kerry Lightenberg comes on now for Atlanta. He is the 5th Atlanta pitcher of the game. He's also the 5th Atlanta pitcher used in the first game. And in 15 innings of this series so far, this being the 15th inning, this is the 10th pitcher used by Bobby Cox already. The Braves, who annually lead the league in incomplete games and fewest inning pitch out of the bullpen. 0-2 the count to Langford, who did a 2-run double in the third to drive Tom Glavine out of the game. Change up for the strikeout.
Good pitches there by Lightenberg. He gave him 2 good high fastballs, and then he comes with a changeup. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about. 2 high fastballs and then the changeup down.
Carlos Hernandez, who has homered, struck out, and grounded out. 1 for 3. In 1993, in a National League Championship Series game, the Braves and the Phillies. And so on. Good fastball there. Fred McGriff had 3 doubles in a game, and that was an all-time playoff record. Playoff series record. In the 1906 World Series, Frank Isbell of the Chicago White Sox had 4 doubles in a game. That is the World Series record. That was the World Series where the White Sox stunned the Cubs in the World Series. The Cubs, who had the greatest record, still today, the greatest regular season record in baseball history. And the Cubs played the White Sox, who were called the hitless wonders, as Hernandez is down on strikes, 2 down. And the White Sox beat them in the World Series, even though they had the best record ever. And Cubs team won 116 games that year. Here's Placido Polanco now. Mark McGwire has come out on deck. 2 down, nobody out. The pitcher, Kyle, is due up next, so all those congratulations being offered to Kyle, apparently indicating that he is finished for the day.
Well, they're 2 down, so well, he will not get the bat in this inning.
Andrew Jones, and that's the inning. 3 up, 3 down. We're heading to the 8th inning. Rafael Furcal, Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones, but the Rays trailing 9-2. Cardinals 9, Braves 2. We go to the top of the 8th inning at Busch Stadium. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. And be sure and log on to MajorLeagueBaseball.com for the most complete baseball coverage on the internet and get the whole postseason story, including about the game still to come today out in San Francisco. Pacific Ballpark, the Giants and the Mets. Game 2 coming up a little bit later. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific. Jason Christensen, the left-hander, formerly with the Pittsburgh Pirates, comes on in relief of Darryl Kyle. You know, Darryl Kyle had a performance that was very similar to his outing in 1997 against the Braves. As Kyle takes a strike. You know, I remember that game because we worked that game, Joe, and Kyle went 7 innings, gave up a couple of runs real early, and never allowed another run, and lost to Greg Maddux 2-1.
Yeah,
so about the only difference between that one and this one, he gave up 2 runs early today, is that his team went out and got him 9 runs today versus never getting anything for him the last time. And having an offense that scores you a few runs, that can make a difference. back in '97. Lost that game 2-1. I believe he drove in the only run against Maddox with a base hit.
Well, the right-handers, Bagwell, Biggio, they were controlled easily by the Braves staff in those days. They did not hit them very well.
They all had the problem. I mean, a lot of big name hitters have had problems against Atlanta in these postseason games.
Started with Barry Bonds when he was with Pittsburgh.
That's a foul off to the right. We also saw, as you mentioned, Bell, Bagwell, and Biggio at the Astros. Sammy Sosa 2 years ago with the Cubs. But Jim Edmonds has had 6 hits and 8 at bat in this series. 3 doubles today. 4 RBIs, 3 walks. And they have just not been able to contain Edmonds at all.
He's 6 for 8 in the series. That tells you right there. Maybe he's the one they need to walk every once in a while.
Well, they walked him the first time today. Glavine ended up walking him, and the next batter, Will Clark, hit a 3-run homer. Foul and back out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, you know, Chipper Jones said something here yesterday. He said that if the Braves win this series against the Cardinals, then he thinks the Braves will win it all. He says the Cardinals have a great team. They have a lot of experience. Down the right field line, foul. Giving chase, Will Clark. It's into the crowd. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, now they're going to go home, and then perhaps with Maddox pitching on Saturday. And I wonder, Joe, I mean, Glavine pitched 2 1/3 innings today. I mean, tortured innings. But if they get to a game 4, would that be too soon to bring Glavine back?
Well, at some point he's got to decide.
He has Millwood, who's well rested. Edmonds, oh, he caught it. I think the last one I saw like that was turned in by Mickey Mantle.
Well, the ball's hit straight over his head, and that's the most difficult play for an outfielder. As you can see, he kind of lost track of it, because when it's hit directly over your head, that puts it's very tough to catch. I mean, that is a difficult play right there. I mean, you're looking back over your shoulder. The wide receivers say that is the most difficult catch for them. Well, it's twice as tough to catch a small ball like that.
So Jim Edmonds, who is forever making spectacular catches, writes a new one into the book. Tony La Russa got his lefty in there for the one batter. Andrew Jones coming up, and I guess La Russa now figures he's got to get some of his bullpenners in there. So Timlin is coming on. We'll be right back.
Just a bit of magic.
It just feels like he needs to get some of these guys some work, but Timlin worked an inning plus in the game here on Tuesday. But Christensen came on and faced the one-hitter. And then maybe in the background you can hear the fans chanting MVP, and that has to do with Jim Edmonds. He would be the local choice for sure. Alvaro Martin is downstairs. Alvaro.
John, there was some discussion as to what Kyle's reaction would be to not starting game 1. When they chose Rick Ankiel, they happened to choose the one pitcher that has become a pupil to Kyle this entire season. They have very different approaches and repertoires. But Ankiel said, I can only learn from a guy like Kyle, and he's learned how to face situations and how to approach pitching. And so Kyle's very happy for Ankiel.
Well, here's Timlin, his first pitch hit deep down the left field line by Andrew Jones, and that ball is gone. Well, it's the first thing La Russa has done in this series that's gone wrong. So Andrew Jones hits the home run, the first home run for Atlanta in this series. It is 9-3 St. Louis.
First pitch, high fastball, and he drilled it.
And the crowd reacting as the fan out there in left field.
Well, you see the target about knee high. The fastball's about above the belt. And Andrew Jones puts a charge into it. Very good fastball hitter.
So Andrew goes deep, and here is Chipper Jones. Chipper drove in the first run of the day with a single to left field back in the first. He's grounded out and flied out since then. Well, that is the first earned run allowed by the Cardinal bullpen in this series. St. Louis pitched 6 1/3 innings out of the bullpen in Game 1 Tuesday. And the only run allowed by the bullpen was unearned run in the 9th inning. So that bullpen has been superb. And that's too low. In fact, all of the teams that have won games so far this week, that's been a constant.
Well, John, we all know the bullpens are far more important now than ever before, and they're used a lot different.
And it's 2-2. Well, the Seattle Mariners in their 2 wins over the Chicago White Sox got 10 innings pitched out of their bullpen without allowing a single run. Here's Mike James, who worked in Game 1 very successfully, helped turn that game around. I mean, he might have been the real hero of the piece. Down on the field line, and Langford, no, it's in. He smothered it, and into second goes Chipper Jones with a double. Great effort out there by Langford.
Well, everybody uses their bullpen differently, and Tony La Russa used his differently than Bobby Cox. You see nice play by Langston just to keep it from getting past him. But by the time he gets up, Chipper Jones is in the second to double. Nice effort.
And now Andres Galarraga comes up. Lou Piniella's had a win and 2 saves out of his bullpen. 10 innings. Oakland, of course, last night. Mariano Rivera pitched the final inning in the 3rd to save it for Andy Pettit. The night before, the Oakland bullpen got 2 shutout innings in relief of Heredia for the save. The Giants yesterday got an inning in the 3rd from their bullpen. They went over the Mets. I remember when La Russa first went to Oakland, Joe, he'd been fired by the White Sox. Went to Oakland, I think, in 1986, midseason. And he made a couple of moves that seemed strange at that time. He took guys who had been starters and moved them to the bullpen. Gene Nelson and Rick Honeycutt. And his theory was, we're not that deep in the rotation anyway. So if we put these guys in the bullpen, if we can build a strong bullpen, if we could just get 5 innings out of the starters with a lead, maybe we could piece together the last part of the game. Of course, another pretty strong move there. They took a shot with a guy that nobody else seemed to want, Dave Stewart. And that sort of made the whole thing work. That's when they really came to prominence, because Dave Stewart ate up the innings. And the bullpen was always sharp for the other guys. Strike 3 on the outside to Galarraga. 3rd time in a row that he has struck out.
Well, Timlin gets this pitch that you said Kyle wanted, and you can see that ball is clearly off the plate outside. I mean, the ball, you see the catcher reach out there and then pull it back.
Caramba. Jordan into right field, and that's going to be a base hit. Coming around third is Chipper Jones. He'll score. So Ryan Jordan with his second RBI of the game and his fourth RBI of this series. And it is now 9-4 St. Louis. Jordan's first hit of the day.
Well, Jordan inside out's a fastball and just hits a line drive right field and gets the job done in front of Eric Davis.
So the Braves have a couple of runs on the board. The batter will be Javier Lopez. And now Dave Duncan will come out. I mean, this looks awfully safe for the Cardinals. But of course, it looked pretty safe for Atlanta on Sunday against Colorado with 2 down before the Rockies scored 7 runs. So Duncan out there with Hernandez and Timlin talking it over. Timlin has faced 4 hitters, given up a homer, a double, and a single with that 1 strikeout. And now they played umpire. Terry Kraft is going to go out and speed him along. And remember, right after the ball game, stay tuned for SportsCenter with Trey Wingo and Kenny Mayne. We'll have live post-game coverage from here at Busch Stadium. Highlights of the game, interviews and analysis. And then can the Mets bounce back? With the Giants leading 1-0 over the Mets in the National League Division Series. It'll be Sean Estes for the Giants, highlighter for the Mets later on. A preview of that game. And off-day coverage from both Yankee Stadium and Safeco Field. Pam Ward at Yankee Stadium, Shelley Smith at Safeco Field with what's upcoming there. Those series will be resuming tomorrow. Here's Javier Lopez. He's 0 for 3 against Darryl Kyle today. That was not a surprise. I mean, Darryl Kyle is his worst nightmare with 0 for 3 today. As Dave Veers, the Cardinal closer, now gets up in the bullpen. Javier Lopez is now 4 for 40 in his career against Kyle. Now you would feel like 40 at bats. That's enough at bats.
Far more than I think 20 at bats is enough to get some kind of a gauge on whether you can handle a guy or not. But he's hit 2 line drives that are caught. One off Kyle and now this one off Timlin.
Edgar Renteria getting to it. 9-4 St. Louis. We go to the last half of the 8th inning. Into the glove. Cardinals up. Hits an error for Atlanta. Tom Glavine went only 2 1/3 innings, giving up 7. Glavine and Maddox in the series have a 17.5 ERA. Kyle, meanwhile, after a rugged start, 7 innings, only 2 runs allowed. Edmonds 3 doubles in the game. Here's Mark McGwire, hence the ovation for the crowd as Big Mac comes up against a new Atlanta pitcher, Mike Remlinger, a left-hander, on the pitch. And a standing ovation for Big Mac. And again, as we saw in that 1998 season and ever since, when McGwire comes to the plate, every time there's a pitch, flash bulbs go off all around the ballpark.
Well, he was having another great year when he went down with the knee injury. I mean, 32 home runs, still hitting .305. He was having a fine season.
Well, I mean, it was nowhere near McGwire. It was nowhere near anybody. Analyze this for us, Joe.
I can't.
I mean, is he trying to rub it into the kid or what?
And Gill says, I know how to do that.
It can happen. He changed up on him there. 1-2.
Well, he just showed him the fastball to pitch before.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's see you hit this one, big guy.
Yeah, he's way out in front.
He came back with the changeup. Center field. Andrew Jones. It is gone. McGuire with the pinch hit homer. He comes out.
Well, that makes it a perfect day for the Cardinals fans. A victory and a home run by Big Mac.
Well, that's what Mark McGuire has meant to the game these last 3 years. I mean, there's been a lot of heroics here today, but the biggest ovation of the day for the McGuire home run. For Carl, that great arm, throwing out Fernando Vina.
Well, he threw him a changeup, and then he tried to sneak a fastball by him, and there was nothing that he could do. Fastball away. And you could see him kind of twist on his knee there after he hit the ball. Watch him twist there to get pressure off his knee. And the kids get a diving. Well, one kid comes up with it anyway.
And for Mark McGuire, that was his first playoff home run since 1992, when he got one against the Toronto Blue Jays while with the Oakland Athletics. He hit one against Jack Morris, then with the Blue Jays in his first at bat of the League Championship Series in '92, and had not hit another one until just now. Renteria, the hitter, 0-2 the count, and the fans are now doing the tomahawk chop cheer that you hear so much in Atlanta, and of course they mean it derisively. 2 down, and now Jim Edmonds, and a huge cheer for Edmonds in what is likely his final at bat before they go to Atlanta. He's gone 6 for 8 in the 2 games with 3 doubles and a homer and 4 RBIs, and he topped it off with a spectacular catch in the first half of this inning. And the MVP chant begins. Slider too low. 2-0. The crowd, in essence, taking time here in the 8th inning to give their heroes the big send-off as they get ready to head to Atlanta. 2-0 the count to Edmonds. High pop-up. Shortstop for Carl. The wind carries it a bit. He backpedals and makes the catch. That is the first time that Edmonds has been retired today. But Mark McGuire tops the whole thing off with a home run. A beautiful early evening here in St. Louis. Matt Morris on to pitch. The right-hander who had the Tommy John elbow surgery, so-called Tommy John surgery, missed all of last season. And I mean, this guy had Kevin Brown kind of stuff. Looked like he was going to be one of the great pitchers in the league, but he's had a lot of arm problems. Been using him out of the bullpen since he came back to the big leagues around the 1st of June this year. The Major League Baseball Division Series will be continuing tonight out at Pacific Ballpark in San Francisco. Remember Sports Center right after the ball game. And we'll have live reports from the clubhouses. And then tonight on the Fox network, the Mets with Al Leiter against the Giants and Sean Estes. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Fox network tonight. Reggie Sanders 0 for 2, or actually 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, and 0 for 7 in this series. Right past Morris, Vina throws him out. Well, Joe, it was a throw. It didn't have a whole lot of bearing in the outcome of this game, but Mark McGwire, one of the great home run hitters in the history of the game. I mean, over this last few years, the greatest the game has ever seen. A guy who harkens all the way back to the Babe himself, larger than life figure. And he gave the crowd what they wanted. McGwire now 554 lifetime. Reggie Jackson next on the list.
Well, John, home run hitters have always gotten people's attention. From Babe Ruth right on up to Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all the great home run hitters today. I mean, they get your attention when they step in the batter's box.
Lockhart has flied out, 2 down, nobody on, and Bobby Bonilla will come up as a pinch hitter. And of course, if we ever get a tight game in this series, where La Russa would look to use a pinch hitter with men on base, McGwire could become a real factor that could cause things to happen.
Well, I don't think Bobby Cox will let him be a factor unless he gets a chance to hit with the bases loaded.
Well, even in terms of moves made and not made, like we saw in Game 1 of the World Series last year, just because Darryl Strawberry was on the Yankees bench. 1-1 the count to Bonilla. Strike 2. 52,389, the paid crowd. Everybody on their feet, a sea of red, which has been engulfing the Braves for 2 days. And that's back out of play for the veteran Bonilla. Game 3 of the series, 1 o'clock on Saturday, right here on ESPN. Perhaps Greg Maddux coming back for Atlanta. They'll be down 2-0. We don't know who's going to pitch for the Cardinals, but we do know that the Cardinals have just thoroughly beaten the Braves here. That is a foul ball just over the head of Will Clark. They've thrashed him and trashed him here.
But I think the big point is the Braves have always lived by their pitching staff. I mean, that's first and foremost what they live by. Bobby Cox has always been able to control the game through his pitching staff. They have not been able to do that here. Maddux, of course, had some bad luck with misplays behind him, but the Cardinals also attacked him. And I think that's what we saw today. They attacked Tom Glavine. They did not wait and just try to fight him off. They went after him. They were very aggressive.
And the hard slider low for a ball.
And I think one of the things that happens most of the time is that you're defensive against Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and great pitchers. I think the Cardinals took another page and they were aggressive.
And what really comes back to haunt them today, especially because Glavine just got roughed up the worst you've ever seen, but they just fell apart defensively back of Greg Maddux on Tuesday. I mean, they hit him hard at times as well, but they did not make the plays behind him.
Well, I think the win over Maddux helped them be aggressive today, and they were very aggressive, and it's easier to be aggressive when you're up 1-0.
So the walk to Bonilla, and Rafael Furcal will get a shot at it here. 0 for 3 with a walk in this game. Furcal hit the first pitch that he ever saw in a postseason game on Tuesday against Rick Ankiel for a base hit. Later in the inning, he got thrown out trying to steal, and that was sort of where things started to go bad for Atlanta, and they've been careening out of control ever since. Furcal has not yet had another hit since that first pitch base hit on Tuesday. A strike. for St. Louis. Right to Vigna. And the Cardinals lead the series. 2 games to none. Heading to Atlanta. Darryl Kyle with his first postseason victory. Tom Glavine with his worst postseason nightmare. And now the Braves will have to dig in and try and turn it around in Atlanta starting Saturday. Will Clark, a 3-run first-inning homer to turn this game around. And the Braves just could not shut down the Cardinals, who have scored 17 runs in the 2 games. Final score again, 10-4, St. Louis. Now stay tuned. SportsCenter coming up next. For Joe Morgan, Alvaro Martin, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm John Miller. Thanks for tuning in. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.